her candidacy. I don't get it.
Yeah, that's okay. I'm here to help you get it. Number one, over 40 million people have already voted. Georgia has had record turnout. They would have you believe that no black men at all have voted, and that's just simply not true. So rather than saying, I blame you, how about they say, I will do better? Blaming black voters or blaming black men is no different than blaming the person that got cheated on in the relationship. Perhaps if you just cooked more, I wouldn't have cheated. At the end of the day, it is about who is trying to engage these voters. And if they
Pay attention here. See, people are tired, especially black people and black men. You have these Democrats or these liberals like Stacey Abrams who just expect people just to go vote just because you see Democrat on the ballot. People are starting to wake up. It doesn't work like that. People are waking up and they're acting like black men are supposed to just be robots and just vote Democrat without thinking, without asking any questions, just for no reason at all. This is why liberals are losing their steam in the last couple of years. I mean, Malcolm X talked about it best, and I get to that later. But dems, it's appalling to see how they just expect black people just to go to the polls and just vote Democrat and, check the box. Oh, don't think, don't ask questions, just vote Democrat. And if we lose, we're going to blame it on you because you didn't vote Democrat. Like, let's keep it real. I mean, this lady, beautiful lady, is giving it to him. She's telling you how it is. Maybe if you would have cooked a little bit more, maybe the relationship would be better. But because certain things you didn't do, certain promises you didn't keep when we got married, it's a rocky road, and we may have to get divorced. We may have to depart. You know what I'm saying? Black people have been voting Democrat for years with no change of heart. Even though back maybe in the 19s, 40s, 50s, blacks were Republicans. I don't know how that road switched. We switched roles and we went Democrat. But now it's a new day. It's a new age, and black people are waking up. So black people are not just going to vote Democrat just because it's Democrat. As soon as we vote Democrat, you do stuff for everyone else but the black people who voted you to get you in. The black people. So let's just keep it real. She's giving it to them. Let's continue.
failed, and I want to give you this example, just bear with me quickly. David Axelrod, a white man, a top Democrat, Obama's go-to person, said the other day very clearly that Democrats have failed in their economic message. Nobody is saying that he's spreading misinformation. He said that they are not reaching out the way that they should. Hillary Rosen also said the same thing with
See, here she says Axelrod, Obama's main man, said that he don't think that Democrats are not reaching out properly. I could be wrong, but I really don't think, I don't agree with Axelrod on this one. I don't think it's not, liberals are not reaching out. I think that the liberals aren't doing what they said that they were going to do, and that's hurting them. And people are starting to catch on, like I said earlier. I think people are waking up to the Democratic plantation. Like Malcolm said it best, a Democrat is nothing but a Dixiecrat. And you're starting to see that you give them this block of the black vote, and when they get in office, they say, screw you. Like Malcolm said, you put them first, and they make you last. So I don't, it's like they coming up with all these excuses, and it shows their level of intelligence. When you really think about it, we're not reaching out like we're supposed to reach out. Instead of really saying that we've been screwing them over for so long. You would think that a real genuine person would say, we've been doing this for years. We've been screwing them over. We've been bending them over, sticking it to them with a pole, telling them lies. And we haven't done nothing for them. And maybe that's the reason why we lost Georgia. Maybe that's why we're losing. We lost the election to Trump. People are waking up and they're not falling for it no more. We're getting off the Democratic plantation.
they should. Hillary Rosen also said the same thing, which is a top Democrat strategist. No one is telling them, oh, well, you're just spreading misinformation or you don't know what you're doing. And I have to say this to progressives as well. They also do this racist trope, and they call it misinformed voters, low education, low information voters when they don't get their way. It is basically a racist trope that says that black men are lazy.
See, here Figaro says that the progressive movement is also like kids. They're like babies. When they don't get their way, they play the blame game. Democrats, the Progressive Party, they play the blame game. they say, oh, it's poor people. They misinformed. It's the lack of knowledge that they have in participating in their election. So they don't know. So we have to educate them. We have to educate these people because they're just dumb. That's pretty much what she's saying out there, saying when they didn't get their way, when they don't win. They have to point the blame instead of blaming themselves of not putting a package together that's appealing to people to make them want to vote for you. I'm going to keep it 100% real. I'm a black man. I never voted for a long, long time because my life never changed regardless who was in office. And now that I'm older and I'm older and I own businesses, I own real estate, and I know that my businesses depend on certain policies that certain people pass. Like I pay attention now. I was affected by the COVID bill. I own real estate when they allow certain renters to not pay rent, but you still had to pay the mortgage on your rental property. It was a mess. And even now in DC, where you can't evict someone, they put these COVID laws into place where they make it almost impossible to evict someone. Thank God that these laws expired last month and we could get back to business. But like I said, for a long time I never voted. So I think a lot of black people, a lot of black men aren't voting because their lives isn't changing. There is no package that's intriguing to them to make them want to vote. You know what I'm saying? So I think it's wrong to say people are misinformed or say that black men are lazy and that's why they didn't vote or they just don't care. You know what I'm saying? They probably don't care because they don't see anything changing in their lives, regardless who's in office. So why vote? You know what I'm saying? So what this young lady is saying, I agree with her. Put a package together. Make something appealing to make people want to vote. Offer black something. You know what I'm saying? Offer something tangible instead of lip service. And maybe you'll get the vote. Maybe you'll win. Stop pointing the finger. I agree with her.
Black men are lazy, that they're not involved, and it is flat out a lie. And let's talk about targeting voters. Stacey Abrams said they're being targeted for misinformation. Well, guess who's being targeted for actual engagement? The Hispanic community by the GOP has strategically been targeted with over 30 plus diversity centers with over 20 plus strategically in Latino communities, brick and mortar, that says, hey, come on in. We want to tell you about the Republican Party. And so the response to that from Democrats was, hey, well, we're doing advertisement. So rather than blaming black...
See, this is interesting. See, here she says that, a group, the Hispanics are being targeted by the liberals. So when it comes to Hispanics, that they're being targeted by the liberals or the dems with brick and mortar, with centers that can persuade them to vote Democratic. But when it comes to the black man, the black vote, or we're just going to do advertisement. But for this other group, and this is the problem. When it comes to certain groups, you treat a certain group a different way, rather, from a separate way that you treat the other group. So I find that very interesting that they're doing that for Hispanics, but I find it interesting, but I'm not surprised. Let me tell you why. I remember listening to Dr. Claude Anderson. If you don't know who he is, look him up. Get his book, Powernomics. He got other books. He's a scholar. He think he was a... I want to say he was an ambassador, but he was something to a president a while back. But Dr. Claude Anderson talked about in an interview saying that if black people aren't careful, they won't need your vote anymore. And the reason being is because why do you think that the Democrats or the liberals want the border? Like, they're not really, too excited about closing the border. They don't really, it's more of the conservative, the more of the Republican Party who wants the border closed. And the reason being is that they want, more Mexicans or more Hispanics to come in through the border, so they won't need the black vote anymore. And Dr. Claude Anderson also talks about that black people need to keep their mouth shut. Keep your mouth shut. Stop getting other races' affairs. Because if all these foreigners come through the border, whose jobs are they going to take? Like, where are you going to work? People need to be quiet, because if they come in, they're going to take your jobs. So black people need to be careful and stop getting other people's affairs. Because if they allow all these people through the border, they're going to take your jobs, and you won't get a damn thing, and they won't give a damn. So we need to be careful. So I'm not surprised that they have these centers, and I've seen them in DC. I'm not surprised. And when we talk about this, thing. And I love Hispanics. Like one of my girlfriends was Hispanics, ex-girlfriends, Dominican. So it's all good. But these Dems are very sneaky, and you have to pay attention to them. I'm not saying Dems are Republicans. Also, I'm not a Dem or Republican because I know the game regardless. But I live in D.C. and about maybe 8 years ago, all through the city, when you look at the McDonald's, all the McDonald's it was black people working in them. You go into McDonald's now, you see nothing but Hispanics. You may see one black person, but it was not like that because D.C. was considered Chocolate City. And that's because it's an influx of Hispanics coming in. Nothing against them. Do your thing. And also, even construction, about 10 years ago, when you saw construction, people working on the road, you saw it was nothing but black people in D.C. You look at it now, it's nothing but Hispanics. It's an influx. It may see one or two black people. But I'm not saying black people don't have other jobs. Black people drive metro buses, drive trains and all that, work in the state government, work in the school. But you all see an influx of Hispanics driving buses now in D.C. So, and I'm not surprised. I mean, this influx is not by accident, and it's all political motivated. So that, so I'm not surprised of what she just said. Let's continue.
An advertisement. So rather than blaming black men, why don't you ask the Democrat Party, why is it that they have not engaged black men or black women, because we do vote together, by the way, and talk about an economic policy that we would adhere to? And so it's a lie. It is a racist trope. It is something that is designed to blame and beat black men with a public scalding when they don't get their damn way. And it has to stop. And I also blame these black pundits who are running with this as well. Misinformation is very strategic. They're not confused. Black men, I just went to a reparations rally on Saturday. Thousands of people showed up, more so black men. And they showed up with less than a 2-week notice, with no rapper as a headline, with no political party that pushed it, with no political official that pushed it, with less than 2 weeks, Bree. I've seen political elected officials that can't get 50 people in the room at best. So black.
See, now she's talking about this rally that took place in D.C. over the weekend, in which it was a black reparations rally, which Tariq Nasheed promoted. And she's saying that within less maybe a 2-week notice, black people showed up without rappers, celebrities, or churches. And we know that the liberals have a big problem doing that, using rappers who we know who are uneducated, who promote death, to persuade people to vote. I think that maybe a couple of months ago that they had a twerk in front of the Planned Parenthood, that they were twerking. I mean, what such disrespect. And I think no vote, no fuck, something I saw. I mean, it was just disgraceful and distasteful. So what she's saying is that, Dems need to stop that, because Dems have a problem of thinking that black people are stupid by using celebrities and rappers or churches just to win the vote. And that's very disrespectful. That's the most disrespectful thing that you can do, and she's saying also that people make time for what they want to make time for. And we all know that each and every one of us has had a girlfriend or a boyfriend, that has one that we met, that we were dating, and we text them or called them saying that, do you want to go out? And they may say, no, I'm busy. But we all know maybe they're not that interested, because if you're interested, you make time for what you want. And what she's saying to the Dems or the liberals, that maybe black people or black men didn't show up because you didn't have anything that they wanted. You know what I'm saying? That's a reality. And stop playing this game. So maybe if you give people what they want, they'll show up. They'll be interested in going on a date with you. So I find that very interesting of her talking about that. You claim that, she said they claim that black men didn't show up to the polls, but it's maybe they're tired of the games. They're tired of the liberals game. They're tired of the Democratic plantation. So wake up. Maybe she's telling them to wake up, offer something. Let's continue.
Get 50 people in the room at best. So black men are engaged, but they may not be engaged, and they may not be feeling you. The first thing is actually dating somebody, then engaging, and then asking them to get married. Black men are engaged, they just ain't feeling you. So what do you have to do? Come back to the table and say, how can I bring you on? But also don't discredit black men who vote Democrat. But also understand, guess what? Black men are also conservative, and that's just something they're going to have to deal with. But why is it? Let me ask you this, Bree. When white women flipped on the Democrat Party and they voted for Obama and then flipped with Trump to line up with their white men, when Hispanics has consistently flipped, you know this by working on the Bernie Sanders campaign, that the Latino community in Florida voted to the right, that the Latino community in California voted to the left. Why are those groups looked at as strategic voters?
She just dropped the bomb. Dropped the Unabomber. Here she says that how come when it comes to white women, a lot of white women voted for Obama, and that is very true. That's why Obama won that election. He had a lot of white voters who voted for him, as well as black voters, as well as Hispanic voters. But she said when Trump voted, a lot of these white women flipped to Trump. They got back with their man. So, and even Hispanics, they flip. It's just strategic. You politics, it's all about going with who's going to treat you the best. It's not about sticking to one party, and that's black people problem. They only stay Democrat. They only stick with the liberals. I've had a conversation with a black church-going woman, very nice lady, and if you're Republican, like, they won't even listen to what you got to say. Like, to me, Democrats, especially for the church, Democrats are the most anti-Christian political group out here. So I'm trying to find out, why do so many church-going people vote Democrat when they're against abortion? I mean, they're with abortion. They have nothing against LGBT community. But if you're a church-going person, you know what the Bible says. But they stick to this Democrat thing, and they're not strategic at all. So here this lady, as Figaro is saying, that every other race is strategic. They don't just stick to one party. They flip. They go with the person who's going to give them what they want. That's just smart. That's intelligent. That's savvy. That's shrewd. That's sagacious. But for black people, we are sticking to this one party. Or we've been doing it for a long time. We're waking up. We're not doing it now. But when we do it, it's a problem. We're misinformed. We're lazy. Or we're stupid. And she's making a very good point, and it's wrong. So it's time to just not switch parties, but go with the party who's going to give you what you want. That's politics. I mean, it's not fun, baby, but that's politics. So this lady is giving it to him.
Why are those groups looked at as strategic voters? Why are those groups looked at as, oh, they're just well informed and they're leveraging their vote? Why is it when it comes down to black voters, and particularly black men, it is this push on where you just don't know what you're talking about, or maybe if you just had a little bit more information, or perhaps you should just fall in line? That is a problem that is much more deeper than just a political analysis, conversation. It is about, let's go ahead and tie men up on the pole and let's give them a shellacking. That's what this is. And we have to push back at that. And to black men that are saying, hey, I want them to know that they need to respect us. So I'm glad that we get the blame. I say this, I want them to respect you, but respecting you is not blaming you. In a relationship, respecting you is saying, I will do better. I will start cooking. Yeah. I will do all the things I said I was going to do when I decided to marry you. Not saying, well, you should have did better. I will say with this, Boomerang said it best, the old school movie, love would have brought your ass home last night. And it's time for Democrats to show some love to black voters, the same people that held them down for the last 60 years plus.
Well, we have to leave it.
22 million black victims of Americanism are waking up, and they're gaining a new political consciousness, becoming politically mature. And as they develop this political maturity, they're able to see the recent trends in these political elections. They see that the whites are so evenly divided that every time they vote, the race is so close, they have to go back and count the votes all over again. And which means that any minority that has a block of votes that stick together is in a strategic position. Either way you go, that's who gets it. You're in a position to determine who go to the White House and who stay in the doghouse. You're the one who has that power. You can keep Johnson in Washington, D.C., or you can send him back to his Texas cotton patch. You're the one who sent Kennedy to Washington. You're the one who put the present Democratic administration in Washington, D.C. The whites were evenly divided. It was the fact that you threw 80% of your votes behind the Democrats that put the Democrats in the White House. When you see this, you can see that the Negro vote is the key factor. And despite the fact that you are in a position to be the determining factor, what do you get out of it? The Democrats have been in Washington, D.C. only because of the Negro vote. They've been down there 4 years. And all other legislation they wanted to bring up, they brought it up and gotten it out of the way, and now they bring up you. And now they bring up you. You put them first and they put you last. Because you're a chump. A political chump. In Washington, D.C., in the House of Representatives, there are 257 who are Democrats. Only 177 are Republicans. In the Senate, there are 67 Democrats. Only 33 are Republicans. The party that you backed controls 2/3 of the House of Representatives and the Senate, and still they can't keep their promise to you because you're a chump. Anytime you throw your weight behind a political party that controls 2/3 of the government, and that party can't keep the promise that it made to you during election time, and you're dumb enough to walk around continuing to identify yourself with that party, you're not only a chump, but you're a traitor to your race. And what kind of alibi do they come up with? They try and pass the buck to the Dixiecrats. Now, back during the days when you were blind, deaf, and dumb, ignorant, politically immature, naturally you went along with that. But today, as your eyes come open and you develop political maturity, you're able to see and think for yourself. And you can see that a Dixiecrat is nothing but a Democrat in disguise. You look at the structure of the government that controls this country. It's controlled by 16 senatorial committees and 20 congressional committees. Of the 16 senatorial committees that run the government, 10 of them are in the hands of Southern segregationists. Of the 20 congressional committees that run the government, 12 of them are in the hands of Southern segregationists. And they're going to tell you and me that the South lost the war. Today are in the hands of a government of segregationists, racists, white supremacists, who belong to the Democratic Party but disguise themselves as Dixiecrats. A Dixiecrat is nothing but a Democrat. Whoever runs the Democrats is also the father of the Dixiecrats, and the father of all of them is sitting in the White House. I say it again. You got a president who's nothing but a Southern segregationist. From the state of Texas. They'll lynch you in Texas as quick as they'll lynch you in Mississippi. Only in Texas they lynch you with a Texas accent. In Mississippi they lynch you with a Mississippi accent. And the first thing the cracker does when he comes in power, he takes all the Negro leaders and invites them for coffee to show that he's all right. And those Uncle Toms can't pass up the coffee. They come away from the coffee table telling you and me that this man is all right because he's from the South. And since he's from the South, he can deal with the South. And look at the logic that they're using. What about Eastland? He's from the South. Make him the president. If Johnson is a good man because he's from Texas, and being from Texas will enable him to deal with the South, Eastman can deal with the South better than Johnson. No, I say you've been misled. You've been had. You've been took. I was in Washington a couple of weeks ago while the senators were filibustering. And I noticed in the back of the Senate a huge map. And on this map, it showed the distribution of Negroes in America. And surprisingly, the same senators that were involved in the filibuster were from the states where there were the most Negroes. Why were they filibustering the civil rights legislation? Because the civil rights legislation is supposed to guarantee voting rights to Negroes in those states. And those senators from those states know that if the Negroes in those states can vote, those senators are down the drain. The representatives of those states go down the drain. And in the Constitution of this country, it has a stipulation wherein whenever the rights, the voting rights of people in a certain district are violated, then the representative who's from that particular district, according to the Constitution, is supposed to be expelled from the Congress. Now, if this particular aspect of the Constitution was enforced, why, you wouldn't have a cracker in Washington, D.C.